So if you've, logged onto Wi-Fi recently or opened an email or even just bought a cup of coffee,
Oh, yeah.
you know that we are living in a world that is just completely saturated with corporate feedback requests. I mean, they're everywhere.
They really are. QR codes on napkins, those little links on the receipt.
The text message after a customer service call asking you to rate the experience from 1 to 10.
And it creates this profound irony, doesn't it?
Right.
The corporate world is in what you could call a feedback famine. They can never get enough data.
Never enough.
Yet we as individuals, we're just walking through our lives mostly unmeasured. Our only real data points are, our own self-reflection.
Which is biased.
Inherently biased.
Yeah.
Or maybe a fleeting compliment from a friend that we probably forget 5 minutes later.
Exactly. A company is tracking data with a velocity that would make your head spin, measuring every single click, every pause. But when was the last time you asked for honest feedback? Not about a project, but just about you as a person.
And that's the whole premise of the research we looked at.
Yeah.
What we don't measure about ourselves, those gaps in our personal data, that can cost us.
Okay.
I mean, it can cost us dearly, even when everything seems fine.
Yeah, so that's our mission for this deep dive then.
It is. We're going to see what happens when we take the really rigorous, data-driven metrics of the corporate world and just apply them directly to our own personal growth, to our personal brand equity, if you will.
Okay, let's unpack that. We're asking questions like, how well do you actually listen?
Mm-hmm.
How do you make people feel? What is your actual measurable presence in a room?
We have to stop thinking of feedback as just a vibe, a feeling.
And start treating it like a tool, a precise, actionable tool.
That's the key shift.
Yeah.
And to get there, we really need to understand what's driving this corporate obsession with data in the first place.
Well, it all comes down to the bottom line, right? The research is so clear on this. Feedback isn't a nicety. It's what drives profitability. It really reminds me of teaching the concept of customer lifetime value, or CLV.
Okay.
It's that blunt financial reality. Those tiny little improvements in customer experience, they aren't just nice to haves. They are financially determinative.
And what's so fascinating is the power of the compound effect. It's like that famous British cycling concept, the aggregation of marginal gains.
Right.
It applies perfectly. One tiny improvement, a fraction of a percent better interaction, it seems like nothing. But you compound that across millions of interactions year after year.
And it adds up to serious momentum, to loyalty, lower churn.
And real dollars. It's how you beat financial expectations. The customer feels seen and the company reaps the reward.
Now let's contrast that corporate reality where feedback is just this accepted, necessary thing.
Right, with our individual experience. The author's anecdotes about turning the tables and asking for personal feedback are just. They're perfect. They show the resistance we face.
The first story is so relatable. After a meal, the author asks the waiter, "How did I do as a guest? Did I make your shift harder or easier?"
And the waiter was just baffled.
Completely baffled, as if he'd been asked to calculate the square root of the tip. It's pure social awkwardness.
It really highlights that we just don't have a social script for that kind of question.
Yeah.
But the second example, that's where we get the data point.
This was asking a mortgage broker after a refinance, "How did I do as a client? 1 to 10.
And the broker says 9.
Which is great, but the author pushes, asks why it wasn't a perfect 10.
And the response is so insightful. Everyone can improve. That single point of external observation, a 9 out of 10, is so much more valuable than a week of journaling.
Because it's from a disinterested party. It shows you the ceiling of your performance in someone else's eyes.
So if the mirror, the self, is this inherently biased, conflicted observer, how do we get around that? I mean, self-reflection is what we're told to do, but
the research shows it just confirms our own biases most of the time.
it absolutely does. And this gets to the core of the problem, what we can call the measurement gap. We just assume we're walking around unmeasured.
But we're not at all.
We have to acknowledge that the measurement is already happening. I mean, forget personality for a second. Just think about your FICO score.
Oh, yeah. That dictates your APR. It decides coldly whether you get a loan or not. That is a relentless, rigorous measurement system.
And if that's how a bank measures you for money, just imagine how companies are measuring you for value. They're tracking how profitable you are to them.
This is where it gets genuinely unsettling, because we're talking about being scored without even knowing it.
Precisely. We looked at a classic piece of research, a Wall Street Journal story from back in 2004. It detailed how Best Buy was analyzing customer profitability.
And they weren't just tracking purchases, they were actively dividing their customers into, what was it?
Angels and devils.
Devils. Wow. That sounds incredibly aggressive for a retail store. What defined a devil customer?
Well, according to the sources, a devil was someone whose behavior drained resources. So think heavy returns on opened items needing long, excessive support calls.
Or only buying things on super deep clearance.
Exactly. Buying at a loss to the company. The research showed these customers could actually erode the profits that the angels brought in.
So they were tracking the profitability of your character in a way. And the CEO at the time was concerned about the optics of, quote, firing customers.
That's how serious the scoring is. And the takeaway for you, the listener, is clear. Companies are already scoring you. So you should be able to score yourself, or at least get the data to understand your score.
Which brings us directly to the most common metric used for this globally, the Net Promoter Score, NPS.
Developed by Frederick Reichheld. And it is the perfect metric to apply personally because it's so simple. It's based on one single question.
And that question is?
How likely are you to recommend this product, service, or experience to someone else on a scale of 0 to 10?
And the calculation itself is fascinating because it's intentionally cruel to mediocrity.
That is the critical detail. You only care about two groups. People who score you a 9 or a 10 are your promoters. They love you. They advocate for you.
Then you have the detractors.
Right. That's anyone from a 0 to a 6. They will actively speak against you. They'll cause harm to your brand.
But what about the middle group? The 7s and 8s? In a personal context, that seems like the most interesting group.
Absolutely. The 7s and 8s are deemed passives. They're satisfied, but not loyal. They're the people who think, yeah, they're fine, or it was okay.
They're not going to fight for you.
Not at all. And they are ripe to be poached by a competitor. In your personal life, passives are the people who enjoy your company but wouldn't stick their neck out for you. The score is just promoters minus detractors.
So those 7s and 8s just vanish. They don't count.
They're invisible in the final score.
Yeah.
They occupy the silence that can mask your need for improvement.
So if you've ever wondered what your personal NPS is, this is the framework, and it connects perfectly to that famous Jeff Bezos quote. Your brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room.
Exactly. If your brand equity is defined in your absence, then feedback is the only fuel you have to shape it. You can't influence the conversation if you don't know the data.
I do wonder, though, isn't there something a little cold about this? Reducing human relationships to a business metric like NPS.
That's a valid concern, and it's why the framework is so important. We're not saying you should have a spreadsheet of your friends.
Okay.
We're just using the objectivity of a metric to fight our own internal emotional bias. We're not scoring the person, we're scoring the experience of the interaction.
Which allows for growth.
Yes. If we accept we're being scored subconsciously anyway, we might as well get intentional about gathering the data.
That's a critical shift in focus. So we need to move from the why of measurement to the how, the craft of asking.
Because the quality of the feedback is directly proportional to the quality of the question. You can't just say, so how'd I do?
You just get vague compliments.
Right. You need a tool.
Yeah.
Something that moves feedback from that generalized vibe to a structured, usable tool. And the research introduces a really simple 3-part system for this. It's called situation, behavior, impact, SBI.
SBI. All right. The genius here seems to be that it forces the observation to be objective. It takes opinion out of it.
It does. Part 1 combines situation and behavior. You ask, in that meeting or at that dinner, what did you observe me do? Not, was I good? Just, what happened?
And then part 2 goes straight to the result. What effect did that behavior have on you? It makes it about cause and effect, not personal criticism.
Let's use a real-world example. Say you just led a difficult neighborhood meeting.
Okay.
Instead of asking your friend, did I handle that well, which invites a, yeah, you were great, you use SBI.
So I'd say, during the part of the meeting where Mrs. Peterson was shouting situation, I cut her off mid-sentence behavior. What did you observe and what effect did that have on the room?
Impact.
Exactly. And now your friend can say, I observed you cut her off, and the impact was that 3 other people who were about to speak just shut down. They didn't contribute again.
Wow. That's actionable data. It's not a critique of my character. It's a clear consequence of my action. It turns an emotional failure into a clear behavioral adjustment. And there's a really valuable follow-up question the sources provide.
For real growth.
Yes.
Yeah.
You ask, based on that, if I wanted to be 10% better next time, What's one thing to keep and one thing to change?
I love that 10% better framing. It makes the change feel manageable, not like a total overhaul. It forces the other person to give you coaching, not just criticism.
And you can use this with anyone. The sources suggest asking students, strangers, baristas, brokers, anyone who witnessed your behavior in a specific context.
But the most surprising application is in a job interview. When they ask, do you have any questions for us?
The counter question is a game changer.
Instead of a generic question, you turn it back on them.
You say, yes, based on this conversation, how did I do? What could I have done better in my answers? It just shows an immediate commitment to growth.
It's such a powerful signal. But asking is only half the battle. The sources are crystal clear about what you have to do once the feedback actually starts coming.
And look, the sources are blunt, so we'll be blunt. The moment you receive feedback, you must shut up.
Just zip it.
Zip it. No rebuttals, no defense counsel, no... Well, what I meant to do was...
No courtroom cross-examination. We all have that urge, right, to defend our intent.
Instantly. But the moment you start explaining your intent, you're invalidating their data point about your impact. You're basically saying your perception is wrong.
And that person will never give you honest feedback again.
Never. So the only acceptable response, the absolute discipline, is acknowledgement. You thank them. You say, thank you. I'm going to sit with that.
It gives you time to process it without that defensive reaction.
That's the whole point.
So the final synthesis here is that feedback isn't a threat. It's a gift. It's actually the ultimate form of respect, giving someone the data they need to grow.
This isn't just for huge brands trying to maximize profit. It's for you, the learner, for becoming who you're becoming. It's about influencing your personal NPS.
So we need to ask gently, but also bravely, and be willing to give it too, with that same clarity and kindness.
You might be surprised who's been waiting for that invitation.
So what does this all mean for you right now? We've talked about why measurement matters, from CLV all the way to those devil customers, and we've given you the structure, situation, behavior, impact.
Your challenge is to apply it. Try the SBI method this week. Ask one person for feedback after a non-professional but maybe high-stakes interaction, after a difficult family talk, or leading a team of volunteers.
Go find your personal NPS data point.
If you want to influence what people are saying about you when you're not in the room, you need the fuel to shape that message.
Find out today what you need to keep and what you need to change. We'll catch you next time for the next deep dive into the sources.